switch panel. Got my fridge up the front now, so I can turn it on, and as you can see the light comes on. Right, that's running on the leisure batteries now. Turn it off altogether or flick it up and it runs on the ignition. If I turn the ignition off, it is no longer running off the van battery. Did that as when I'm driving along. I mean, I normally have it on the off position. When I'm driving along, it's running the fridge. Right, this is what I got to tell you today. Right, this switch here, right, ignition's off, and my daytime running lights are in the bumper, there and there. Right, when I turn the ignition on, turn the ignition on and the van's running, turn that one on, right, and I don't know whether you can see on the roof. Let's have a look if I can zoom in on it. I got side marker lights up there and on the other side. Right, I've also got side markers under the bumper. Right, they're on, he's on, and then I've got the those are on. It's pretty hard to see in this daylight. Right, but for some unknown reason that one's not working, so the driver's side isn't working. I have a lot of LED lights off the one company, and he's kindly sent me another set for me to replace that one. So I always leave that switch on, because as soon as I turn the ignition on, the daytime running lights come on. I've got no lights on the back, so it is just LEDs on the front. So I'm just about to replace that one, and I'll show you how I go through that. Hope I don't get copyrights for me jumper. I came today and I have opened them already. I know what's in the box. They are good. I like them. A box of screws as well. A bag of screws, I should say. I'll get rid of that. They've put M's on the back. I think that's just to mimic 3M, but it isn't. They're not 3M. And they're going outside, and the ones that are on there lost their sticky after the sun had been on them for a while. But there we go. They're a bit tacky, as you can see here. They're not really put together properly. That one's totally out of line. That one's on there better. If you can see the lip, if I can get the light right, the lip on there, it's off centre to the backing. That one's a bit better, but there you can see that now. It's totally out of line. As you can see by the holes in them as well, holes are out of line. That one's okay, but because that one's out of line, I won't be using that one. Put it to the one side. This one is going to be the one, but the wire definitely isn't long enough, so I'm going to solder a new one on, some new wires. Got the wires. It's ordinary bell wire. As you can see by the wires that come with it, they do not have a power drain. LED takes so little power that ordinary bell wire will do the job. So is all I've got to do is clean those up, and I'll get the soldering iron out. Stand by. Right, whilst I'm sat here waiting for the soldering iron to warm up, that's rubbish. The wire stripper's out. 1, 2, I always cut them longer than what I want. I'll show you why. Let's have that one off. Let's see if I can do this with it, because the wires are so thin they break ever so easy. Got that. That's the outer case. And I much prefer with these because the wire is so thin inside. So I'm just going to run it up the blade, count the cuts in my thumb, and just pull the outer off. Same with the neutral, earth, neutral. It helps to have long nails as well. Right. They have been soldered on the end, because if they didn't, when you did that, they would strand. There would be loads of little strands, and they don't like going together. So I don't think my soldering iron's ready yet. It's enough to make it smoke. Right. Let's just clean the end off. And I always do it on my bloody jeans. Right, let's have a look. Is it ready to melt yet? Yes. Right. Let's bring that a bit closer. Right. And just tin the wire. I always like to solder wires that are outside, because you just, if you just put them into a ordinary crimp lock, they don't last long. Water gets into them and corrodes the copper in them. Right, that's that one. Can you still see? Yep. So let's get that. Right, that's those two nicely tinned, and those two nicely tinned. Right. This is why I do a long piece, as though I can just snip them nice and cleanly. They cut lovely then. 1, 2, where's that one? To about 1/4 of an inch. Just enough as though they overlap. Now this is the hardest part, is getting them to go together, because I'm using bell wire. It's black wire, but the one has got a white stripe down the side. So that's the easiest way to relate that that's the positive one. Before I do that, got some shrink wrap. I like to have plenty, roughly the same. And this particular one, I've lost my other roll. This particular one doesn't melt very well. Doesn't shrink, I should say, very well. Right. I'm going to get something now to put the cables on, because they do fight, they move around. Right. And I'm going to hold it like that, as though it traps it, and then I can get my light and connect each one at each time. And I'll start off with the positive. You've got to try not to move them as it's setting, because if you move them as they set, they do tend to corrode. They don't like it in the wet anyway. And look, you've just made me do. Just done that. Unmelt. Oh, ow, that hurt. Didn't put the shrink wrap on. I'm going to stretch that a bit more. Open it up. Put that one on. Put that one on. Right, now I can close them back together. Put that back on. Now I can solder them up properly this time. There's one. Solder. There's the other one. And yes, by the way, the soldering iron is running on the solar. Oh, I got a spike out of that one. Let's flatten him down. There you go. Alright. Slide them over. It helps with holding the joint together as well when you shrink wrap them. Need a cigarette lighter to try and melt them down. This stuff, I don't like it. It doesn't shrink very well. You can see it shrinking, but I will be taping them up as well. This stuff is for household wire. Yeah, that's not melting very well at all. It's fucking burning more than melting. But it is helping. There you go. Right. That's those done. They always look scraggy. Right. And then I'm going to tape it up just as a second barrier to stop the moisture getting into it. I'll start on the one end and work my way up. Get it nice and tight. If you start off an angle, it should go all the way up on the same angle, ensuring good cover. I usually do 50-50. There you go. It is behind the bumper, so there's not that much moisture going up behind it. And there, we got a joint. We'll do the other end. Well, I can't cut that end yet because I don't know how long I want the wire. But there you go. That's done. I'm not going to take you outside and take you underneath the van with me because it is drizzling rain and it's on and off. I got my camera wet once, so I'm not doing it again. Soldering iron's turned off. Alright, the other end will have, I'll use spade terminals because that's what's underneath. Is all I'm doing is unplugging the old one and plugging the new one into its place. So we'll give that a go. Alright, catch you in a momentum. I said I wasn't going to record, but I am now. Oh, there goes my 3M tape. Pretend 3M tape. I'll show you what I mean now by sticker doesn't stick very well. The glue's still on there, or it just peeled off there as easy as any. Let's have a look at that one. Yep, look at that, eh? Fold that one up, throw it away. Right. Oh. I think I've knocked you, so you'll have to bear with it now. That's one. Where's the other one? That one and that one. Right, just going to push that through. Right. It's ever so awkward because it's on the inner bumper as well. There's two bumpers behind them. Before I connect it up underneath, I'll screw that one back in. I've got old 3M tape, supposedly. Hold one end and I slot the other end. This is how you can slot it over the wire and try and line up the holes. There you go. Now we'll take the backing off. Two bits of that ready. There you go. On there. It's going to be ever so easy to put that in my pocket. Ever so easy to get that lined up. I'll get the screw, put it through the hole, put it into the hole in the bumper where the original one was. Both the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for now. Screwdriver through the hole, the screw through the hole. Start to screw it. There you go. Get it started. Put it in. There you go. That's that end. A couple of turns on that end. And then push it on. The best part about it, because they're rubber flexible. I'll show you with the old one. They bend and twist everywhere. And when they're new like that, they're even more flexible. Right, I can get rid of that one. Now, it's absolutely pointless you coming down there with me, so I'll put you back in the van in case it starts drizzling. Okay, turn the ignition on, and hopefully we'll have lights on. Look at that, eh? Dazzling. Now the running lights are back on. There you go. Alright. Now I'll flick the other switch on. Hazard lights. Flick a switch. Hazard lights, indicators. Zoom out. Now we got the strobes going. And the ones under the bumper are now flashing white to orange, white to orange. And so are the ones on the roof. Because I do a lot of motorsports up in the forest, the rules are now you've got to have flashing lights. And I said, well, as far as I know, every vehicle in this country comes with flashing lights, and there's one on each corner, and they wouldn't have it. So that's it. That one stays on permanently. Turn the ignition off. Turn the hazards off. Job sorted. Yet another one sorted.